Thank you, Mr. President. On the bill.
Senator Lanza on the bill.
You know, more than 200 years ago, tyrants were defeated, banished, pushed back across the ocean from whence they came. And the people right here on these shores dedicated themselves to the proposition that tyranny would never again reign on this land. And to accomplish that goal, they wrote what I believe to be the greatest governance document in the history of the world. We know it as the United States Constitution. When that document was ratified, the world witnessed the greatest transfer of power in the history of humankind. It is that document that said, here, power is not with the government, it is with the people. In order to make sure that that is the truth, and that people can and will live in freedom here, there are another number of provisions which are written in that Constitution. And they were based on a great, in-depth, and truly enlightened review of the history of tyranny throughout the world. And what the founders determined and realized was that the greatest threat to human liberty and freedom does not come from your neighbor. It comes from consolidated power in government. The king, the queen, the pharaoh, the dictator, the tyrant. So how do you protect against that type of tyranny? You understand how government uses its power to oppress the governed. Most of the provisions to protect against tyranny in the Constitution are found in the Bill of Rights, but they are also found elsewhere. Things known as double jeopardy, ex post facto laws, bills of attainder. I know today, given the fact that we've abandoned even trying to teach civil governance in schools, I know today it's not a priority to teach young people about the very way of life we enjoy called the American way and how it is that we enjoy this life. So let me explain to people back home what some of those terms mean. Double jeopardy means that a person in our country cannot be twice put in jeopardy. Simpler terms, you can't prosecute a person twice or 3 times or 4 times for the same offense. Why is that in the Constitution? You would think if someone did something, we ought to keep going until we get them. Well, the founders knew something. They knew that when government wants to oppress, when it wants to deprive you of your liberty, it'll do whatever it takes to put you in jail. And so when you're found innocent, they'll come at you again. When you're found innocent again, they'll come at you one more time. And they won't stop until you're in jail and deprived of your liberty. That's not theoretical or academic. That's what happened for eons throughout the world and right on this land. Ex post facto. What does that mean? Sadly, most kids in school don't know what it means. And they ought to. They should, because it is the very shield that protects them against tyranny. It means that in this land, we don't criminalize activity or conduct that was legal when it was performed. Put in other words, We're not going to make it a crime to do what you did yesterday when it was legal to do it. Why is that in our Constitution? Article 1, Section 9. Because the founders knew that when the government wants to take your freedom, this is what they do. They say, I don't like you. You're a Democrat. You're a Republican. You're of this ethnicity. You don't agree with my politics. I really don't have any legitimate claim against you. So I'm just going to say what you did yesterday is now a crime. That's a protection against tyranny and government. And it's important that we have it. Same area of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, bills of attainder. I doubt anyone in this room, I shouldn't say that. We have a bunch of lawyers. I'm looking at Senator Breslin, and even non-lawyers, I'm sure. But very few, I would imagine, throughout the state even know the definition of bills of attainder. And that's okay. As long as they've lived under the blanket of that protection, it's all right. But I guess these days they ought to know about these things, lest they lose them. Bill of attainder, listen to this definition and see if it rings true or sounds familiar to you today in our society, in the halls of government. Does this sound familiar? Bill of attainder. A legislative act that singles out an individual or group and declares them guilty of some crime without a trial. Sounds familiar to me. I see it playing out on the news every day. Why is that important? Why do we need that protection? Again, because it shields us from consolidated power that has always corrupted on every land on this earth, except here, where the hope that it would not. This is how government deprives you of liberty. It says, you're a threat to us. You're like Lanza. You talk too much. I don't like what you believe. I don't like what you say. I don't like what you look like. I don't like how you pray. I don't like how you don't pray. I don't want to go through the trouble of actually proving that you've done something wrong. Your existence is wrong enough to me. I'm in power. I'm the government. I'm just going to pass a law that says you go to jail. Don't pass go. These are the very things that distinguish what we are, what America is, the land of the free. And because we don't happen to like a certain person that serves in a certain office today, we're going to throw it out the window. We're going to be blinded by our hatred, blinded by political considerations. And we're going to throw not only the baby out with the bathwater, we're going to throw freedom into the garbage heap. We're going to allow tyranny to once again get a foothold on these shores. We're going to open the door to the idea that government is in control, that government has the power, that your rights and your freedoms are subservient to the whims of tyranny. Hate who you like. Please don't hate freedom. Say what you want. But please, please don't attack the foundation of the greatest country the world has ever known, established on the bedrock of freedom and liberty. Please allow my children to grow up in a place that protects them against government oppression. That's why these clauses are in the Constitution. And that's why we here in the state legislature should leave them there and say what we want, have our political discourse, vote the way we want, but leave the Constitution alone. Please, for God's sake, leave the Constitution alone. I know some find it funny. It's not. It's sad. It's sad that in our zeal, and because of our hatred for some, we're willing to open the door to tyranny and oppression.
Gianaris.
Absolutely, Senator Gianaris.
The senator yields.
Thank you. My question, Senator Lanza, is what any of his comments have to do with the bill that's before this House?
What, with the sponsor yield?
He asked you a question.
It's actually, you have the floor.
I'm going to answer with a question.
Okay.
I believe Senator Lanza has the floor. You can answer the question.
No, he would like to ask you a question, Senator Gianaris.
Well,
To answer your question, he wants to ask you a question.
I'll answer the question.
Sure.
It has, through you, Mr. President, it has everything to do with this legislation. Now, Mr. President, would Senator Gianaris yield?
Senator Gianaris, would you yield for a question?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear his answer.
It has everything to do with this legislation.
Okay. Would Senator Lanza continue to yield?
I asked Senator Gianaris to yield first.
Point of order here, Mr. President. Senator Lanza has the floor. It's within his prerogative whether to yield or not. He has answered the question. You've asked him to further yield. He has asked whether you would yield for a question. Would you yield to his question? He has the floor.
First of all, you're no longer the presiding officer, Senator Griffin.
Well, apparently, Mr. Senator Gianaris, presiding officer determines germaneness, not you. You're not in a position to determine what is germane or not.
No one's
This
talking
bill is
about
on the Constitution. You're raising whether or not
Senator
Senator
Griffo.
Lanza is raising a legitimate
Mr. President.
remarks on a specific bill that is before the House that deals with constitutional issues.
Mr. President.
Senator Griffo, please.
I'll
Senator
remind Senator
Gianaris.
Griffo that we should all be addressing the presiding officer and not each other. No one is speaking about germaneness. I merely asked a question of Senator Lanza.
I answered the question. I'll answer it again, Mr. President, through you,
And
if you'd
if
like.
he wishes to no longer yield,
You
that's
yield
his
for a
prerogative.
question from Senator Gianaris. Senator
I-
Gianaris has asked a question.
am-
Will you yield?
Yes, absolutely, completely willing to yield.
Senator Lanza yields.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. I'm merely trying to understand, because you have given a very thorough recitation of a number of constitutional clauses, which we all respect. But I've heard you say things about the double jeopardy clause and how once someone is judged to be not guilty, that then they shouldn't be re-prosecuted. This bill has nothing to do with that, and so I'm trying to understand the relevance of your comments, because this bill only applies when there was a pardon, not a trial that then found somebody not guilty after due process. And so I'm just having trouble understanding how your comments relate to the bill that's before the House. That was my question.
Through you, Mr. President, we probably had different constitutional law professors in law school. So it's not just about trial double jeopardy, as you ought to know. It's about a prohibition twice putting a person in jeopardy. Jeopardy sometimes relating to trial, sometimes not. But the operative and constitutional provision protects against U.S. citizens being twice placed in jeopardy.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification, because Senator Lanza's earlier comments spoke about double jeopardy in the context of someone being adjudged not guilty, and I just wanted to be clear that this bill does not pertain to that example.
Lanza, you have the floor.
May I continue? So of course it does. You know another thing that government full of itself does? When they try to erode your freedom, they don't want you to hear about it. And they don't like anyone else to talk about it. And they want to silence anyone who gets up and defends your freedom. And they say, Senator Lanza, why are you talking about this? Hush up. Be quiet. We know what we're doing. We're big government. Sit down and shut up. Yield. I'll yield all day long to questions about defense of the Constitution of the United States and the freedom that it provides for the people of this country. And that is what this legislation is about, Mr. President. I know it's aimed at a single person, but you know, you may be aiming for the president, but there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. Today it's the president, tomorrow it's the rest of us. And these provisions are important. We ought to stand by them. We ought to live by them. I vote no, Mr. President.